Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and thank you very much for joining today's stream. A lot of news, a lot of important developments, and I try my best to prepare interesting, informative update for you. And if you like the work, please click that like button in that case and leave some commentary. Might be helpful to deal with the algorithm, of course. And as always, if there are going to be any super chat on Rumble during the stream. I'm streaming, as you know, on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble. So if there's going to be any super chat on Rumble, I will react on it. Also, if there will be any donations through PayPal or Boosty and any questions or the comments from those through those platforms also. And maybe I will join community chat later on because I want to give you some additional information about about changes actually that I will make in the programming from Monday, and hopefully you will find it interesting, and hopefully these changes will help to deal with the algorithm a little better. That's been said, let's go through some news now, and I will start with the breaking news, of course, for the day, which is that there was yet another assassination attempt on Russian high-ranking military official, Russian general, who was shot in suspected assassination attempt, and all the media outlets, of course, are reporting about it. Let me give you some details on that. So, senior Russian military intelligence general has been injured after being targeted by gunmen in a suspected assassination attempt in Moscow on Friday. The investigative committee has stated Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, first deputy chief of Russian main intelligence directorate, so-called GRU, by the way, was shot several times in the back outside his residence in the western part of capital of the Russian Federation, Moscow. The statement said it added that Alexeyev has been taken to the hospital, but did not offer further details on his conditions. Number of other media outlets are speculating based on their sources, sharing information that Lieutenant General is in critical conditions and doctors are fighting for his survival. Officials stated that shooter had fled the scene and is being sought by police investigators, and forensic teams are working at the scene. And of course, this is not the first time when Russian high-ranking officials, in this particular case military officials, being targeted. And of course, everybody is thinking that this was behind this assassination attempt was Kiev regime. I will add from my side that these high-level assassination attempts cannot be done by Kiev regime alone without direct assistance from a U.S. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, and British MI6 intelligence service. I personally have no doubts that this terrorist attack on Russian military was conducted, organized and green-lighted by CIA and MI6, and that is by Washington and London. Although, of course, some might argue that maybe U.S. President Trump was not really informed or briefed about this planned assassination attempt in which CIA did play part, yet again, in my personal opinion. And if so, if US president was not briefed on that, then we might argue that globalists and globalist allies in the US, that is democratic establishment or establishment of Democratic Party and all their state institutions that they have infiltrated, also deep state and intelligence community that are operating as allies of the globalist or European ruling class are trying to sabotage, are trying to derail basically talks between Moscow and Washington, between Kremlin and the White House, and sabotaging this attempt. Might be the case, of course, because as you know, dear friends, just a few days ago there was a second round of talks trilateral talks between Washington, Kiev, and Moscow, in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, and the European ruling class was absent, was not invited, basically, on these talks, and this made very many officials in Europe not happy, right? And there was numerous attempts from European side to somehow infiltrate these talks, right? And they are seeking a place around the table, because they were unable to do so. Well, they come up with this attack on Russian general in a hope, I guess, to derail these contacts between Kremlin and the White House. I remind you, dear friends, that Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, who was shot today, is a deputy of head of Russian negotiating team. So you can understand that this is direct hit on the negotiating process itself, right? Number of resources reported that shooter was disguised as a woman, a cleaner, that was allegedly, pretending to clean the area, right? And possibly this was a man disguised as a woman, and allegedly, Lieutenant General was shot in the back. Although there are different rumors. Some say he was shot in the stomach twice, and one bullet hit in the leg. Some other reports are saying that he was shot in the back. Details are unknown, obviously, and as I said, the doctors are trying their best to save the life of this general. Let's see what kind of reaction Kremlin will have on that. But Foreign Minister of the Russian Federation already made a statement about it, and Sergei Lavrov said that terrorist attack on Lieutenant General Alexeyev confirms Zelensky wants to undermine negotiations, and it is true, of course, but I'm quite sure this is not just Zelensky, not just Kyiv regime's so-called intelligence services, but first and foremost, this terrorist attack was planned, orchestrated, and green-lighted by US CIA and British MI6. Although we understand that Russian officials cannot blame these NATO institutions or institutions of the NATO countries, because even if there is evidences of that, after such a blame, of course, some steps have to be made, and I don't think Moscow wants to corner itself in a situation when some actions has to be taken. But we will find out. One day we will find out, of course. And when it comes to terrorist activity of the Western ruling class and their secret services of the NATO member states and their proxies in Ukraine, well, yesterday there was a report that I saw on one of the sources in Russian segment of internet that an explosion occurred on a container shipper near St. Petersburg. The container shipper MSC Giadar 3 was heading from Belgium to St. Petersburg when the vessel reached the Neva Bay. Neva is a river, of course. An explosion occurred in her engine compartment. Fire started, which flames spreading the deck superstructure. There were 22 people on board. The captain was a Russian national. The rest were citizens of Myanmar. They were not injured. Rescue ships came to aid of this container shipper, after which the vessel was towed to St. Petersburg. And obviously this is not the first and I'm afraid not the last terrorist attack on vessels that are linked to Russia, either entering Russian ports or leaving the Russian ports. And unfortunately, situation with maritime safety is deteriorating literally day by day. And I guess Moscow don't really have much time until some solutions or until some steps will be taken and to secure the navigation and this commercial vessels. Also, it is interesting that this container shipper was moving from Belgium to St. Petersburg, which clearly indicates that most likely NATO secret services plant the bomb, explosive device in the engine compartment in Belgium, right? Because I don't think it was aliens, right, that did this. Most likely it was Belgium secret services, or maybe British secret services did it, American secret services, but it was them anyways, right? 100%. Also, dear friends, of course, one of the major topics of discussion worldwide these days is New START treaty that expired on Thursday, and right now there is no treaty in force between US and Russia about nuclear arms control. A big deal, obviously. Although, and despite Russia's offer, by the way, to prolong voluntarily this START treaty until sides will come up with some new one, Washington did not respond positively on that, and well, exactly opposite is happening. We have this report, for example, that US wants a new arms control treaty with Russia to include China also. For decades now, US ruling class is trying to lure in China into this trap somehow, right? To obligate Beijing to basically enter these nuclear arms treaties, and Beijing's position did not really change for years, and the position is quite clear that US and Russia have numerical superiority when it comes to nuclear weapons, significant superiority. If US and Russia have thousands of nuclear weapons, China did not even possess 1,000. Right, and from Chinese perspective, it makes no sense for them, excuse me, to enter any treaty on nuclear arms control, at least for a time being. Also, U.S. President commented on the matter yesterday. He has this posting spree on his True Social, and let me give you his statements. From his post, the United States is the most powerful country in the world. I completely rebuilt its military in my first term, including new and many refurbished nuclear weapons. I also added Space Force and now continue to rebuild our military at levels never seen before. We are even adding battleships, which are 100 times more powerful than the ones that roamed the seas during the World War II. There are Iowa, Missouri, Alabama, and others. I have stopped the nuclear wars from breaking out across the world between Pakistan and India, Iran and Israel, Russia and Ukraine. Dear friends, you tell me what the hell is Trump is talking about here, what nuclear wars he stopped. India never acknowledged any role of Trump in the escalation between New Delhi and Islamabad. When it comes to Israel and Iran, as you know, Iran possesses no nuclear weapons, so Israel does, and therefore Trump basically publicly acknowledged, one might argue, presence of the nuclear weapons in Israeli hands, although Israel itself always denied these claims. And when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, never during this confrontation, Russian president ever authorized, or I guess even think about deploying nuclear weapons. Yet again, Trump is trapped in his own freaking fantasies, I guess, and thinks that his fantasies are reality, which is obviously insane. When you're if you keep in mind that this is a president of a nuclear-armed country, right, that is behaving this irresponsibly. Anyways, let's continue with his statements. Rather than extend New START, badly negotiated deal by the United States that, aside from everything else, is being grossly violated. He blames Russia for violating New START treaty. I mean, really? Psychopath. Clearly psychopath, by the way, right? We should have our nuclear experts work on a new, improved, and modernized treaty that can last long into the future. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump, yet again, basically senseless statements from him. Clearly, this guy is out of touch with reality, and his mind is somewhere else. Maybe with Epstein on island, maybe in some other place, but uh, he's definitely not adequate. That's for sure, right? TASS News Agency is also reporting on the matter that, and I shared previously this information that Chinese side, time and again, responding to these demands from American side to become a part of nuclear arms control. And Beijing's position is that they are considering this unfair and unreasonable for the United States to seek China's involvement in the Russia-US nuclear arms reduction process at the current stage. This time around, diplomat with the Chinese embassy in the United States told this to TASS News Agency. Yet again, Beijing's position did not change the slightest in years on this matter. And according to reports in open sources, China is actually planning to increase its nuclear capabilities significantly, at least to double its nuclear warheads by 2030. So probably for that time, China will have about 1,500 nuclear warheads, and then maybe Beijing will feel itself to be in a more safer place, right? And maybe they will join some treaties. But until then, I don't think these talks will have any. These demands from US will have any effect. US. Nevertheless, U.S. ruling class not going to stop, obviously, pressuring China to join this possible talks, right, on the nuclear arms control. And one of the ways I think U.S. will try to put some more pressure on Beijing is to encourage Japan to become a nuclear armed state, or at least to exercise the idea of becoming a nuclear armed state, which will not go down well, obviously, with any regional country, and first and foremost with China, obviously, and Russia too, by the way. Japan should not be able to have offensive weaponry at all, but in past decades, U.S. Pushed Japan through its proxies, obviously, and U.S. is in control of Japan 100%. So U.S. pushed Tokyo towards militarization, and now Japan possesses even aircraft carriers disguised as amphibious warships, right? And no one will be surprised, I guess, if in upcoming years, maybe even in upcoming month, by the way, Tokyo will start actively exercising this idea of becoming nuclear armed state. On this topic, dear friends, on topic of relationships that U.S. has with Japan, Trump also posted that he's basically endorsing Japanese current Prime Minister Takehashi. Soon there are going to be parliamentary elections in Japan, and I guess Washington hopes that all the radicals that are in support of these crazy ideas of militarization of Japan will gain such a majority in the parliament that they'll be able to, without any issues, pursue this policy of escalation with all the regional powers, everybody, and this does make reasonably cautious, not just China or Russia, by the way, these developments in Japan, but also South Korea. For understandable reasons, by the way. Last time Japan was militarized, Japanese went to kill millions and millions and millions of people all over the global south, and we all know that, correct? But revision of history is a new norm in the Western world, and there seems like they don't really care no more, right? And they don't really try to learn lessons from their history. On the topic of this nuclear armed treaties, Barack Ravid who is making headlines constantly nowadays, by the way. I don't know why. This Mossad asset, disguised as an Axios journalist, is constantly coming up with some reports from some unnamed sources on daily basis, actually, which is also something to just keep in mind, how Western and Israeli secret services are operating to shape their media field, right? But anyways, he come up with this post on his Twitter X page that allegedly US and Russia have agreed to abide by the terms of the New START treaty for at least 6 more months voluntarily, during which negotiations on the potential new agreement will take place. I don't know if we can trust this reporter or not. Most likely not, because other statements from US are debunking this information. Marco Rubio, for example, stated that the expired New START treaty no longer serves its purpose, and noted that the US will only enter into any new agreement from a position of strength. And yet again, Washington's position and their demand is China to be a part of it, right? They are focused on China. And until somehow they will force Beijing to start talks, I don't think they're going to be any new treaty in place on nuclear arms control. And I'm not quite sure Russia will voluntarily obey New START norms for another 6 months or any time whatsoever. There is no need for that, and it all depends on capabilities of Russian military-industrial complex. Maybe Russian leadership will decide to significantly increase, not warheads themselves necessarily, but means of delivery, which is also important. Russia already has like about 6,000 nukes, if not more than that. 1,500 nukes are on duty constantly on both sides, I believe, on Russian side and American side, but there are thousands and thousands stockpiled. And means of delivery probably will be focus of the Russian side. We will find out. There is no treaty in place not to do so. So if there is a capabilities to increase deliveries, means of delivery, then why not, really? Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, also reacted on this topic, and he wrote on his social page, U.S. State Department has called the New START flawed, as it did not cover tactical nuclear weapons or include China. Really? What about the UK and France? Hypersonic weapons. Washington statements mean one thing: there will never be a treaty under these terms. Be honest, Medvedev is saying, and he is correct, by the way, because first of all, Beijing will never agree to participate in these talks, at least until they will feel that they have a certain parity in terms of nuclear warheads with Russia and US, first of all, right? And secondly, because, if US demands China to be a part of a treaty, then Russia has also demands that France and UK should be part of this possible new treaty also. And I don't think either London or Paris will agree on that. Even more, by the way, there is probably a highly likelihood that instead of nuclear arms control treaties, we will see nuclear proliferation, especially in the Western world, so-called Western world, and their proxies. And in Europe, for example, you already have talks beginning about Germany and Sweden being nuclear armed with nuclear weapons. Japan, by the way, another one that from other part of the world. that might start exercising this idea of becoming nuclear armed state. And well, this is going to be like a chain, isn't it? Once nuclear non-proliferation is breached big time, then many more countries will pop up with their military nuclear programs in Europe and elsewhere, of course, and this will of course increase risks of nuclear war tremendously. I mean, we already are closest to the midnight than we ever been, according to doomsday clock, right? And we will get even closer. We will get even closer. And maybe, by the way, maybe this is the reason why cryptocurrencies are crashing. You know, just in, I mean, since January 14 alone, by the way, since January 14 alone, more than $1 trillion has been erased from the crypto market cap, right? 45 billion per day. And some reports are that in past 12 to 24 months, crypto market lost more than 2 trillion, 2.4 trillion or something like that. And if big investors moving away from cryptocurrencies, then what could be the explanation of that? What they are afraid of? And you know what? One of the explanations can be that maybe they are afraid that some situations might emerge when they will not be able to access actually these cryptocurrencies, and what that might be. What can damage the system so much so that these crypto wallets or cryptocurrencies cannot be accessed? What might happen to servers where all this information is stored? Maybe EMP, electromagnetic impulse. And what can generate EMPs, by the way? Nuclear explosions, right? Sun can do this, obviously, if there is some tremendous coronal mass ejection on the sun, and if on its line, then sun, theoretically speaking, can even sterilize this planet, right? But other option or other risk is a nuclear war, because EMPs will fry everything electronics, all electronics, or most of it, right, on this planet. So who knows? Maybe I'm just overthinking this stuff with the cryptos and so on. But there have to be explanation why big investors are pulling out trillions, right, from crypto market. You tell me why. And if you are a big investment, and if you are observing the situation when nuclear proliferation is almost tomorrow's reality, and risk of a nuclear war is increasing, then probably you will diversify your investments, and probably you will move towards the gold, for example, or other commodities. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And as you know, dear friends, on the 5th of February, there was a second round of talks in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. And as I predicted, there were no breakthrough in terms of actual political solution or military de-escalation, but there was some progress in terms of humanitarian track, and as a result of these talks, at least that's how this was presented to public, sides, the regime and the Russian side conducted exchange of POWs. 157 Russian servicemen were returned to Russia, and the Russian side released 157 POWs from Kiev regime's forces. Also, reports are that at least 3 civilians from Kursk region were freed by Kiev regime that were held illegally as hostages, basically, on a Kiev-controlled territory. And Russian freed Russian POWs are already here in Russia. They entered Belarus first, and yesterday late evening there was a special flight that bring them all to Moscow, near Moscow, by the way. Meanwhile, well, Zelensky is making again and again strong statements about possible concessions, territorial concessions, and he went to say once again that there are going to be no territorial concessions. He declared that only he can sign it. These vital documents, no other leaders. Okay, he's repeating himself every now and then. Probably that's the order that he has from globalists. But Zelensky is also making headlines for his interview with, I believe, French media, during the which he made some crazy claims, and one of the claims are that allegedly, according to Zelensky, Kiev regime's forces only lost 55,000 troops since the beginning of special military operation, and even in the Western world, by the way, pro-Ukrainian, extremely anti-Russian public figures are kind of struggling to comment on these statements or explain what the hell is going on here, why Zelensky is this openly lying. But he does, right? And one of the explanations is that, well, Kiev regime does not want to pay compensations to the families of the killed military personnel, and these compensations already are amounted to about $30 billion, at least $30 billion, right? Most likely more than that. And well, this might actually explain why Zelensky and his criminal associates are downgrading this much casualty numbers. And when it comes to negotiating process or the so-called security guarantees for Kiev regime, dear friends, globalist control regimes in Europe, they are actively pushing for idea of deploying European troops on Kiev controlled territory. Also, they want American troops to be there and their Kiev regime to receive NATO fifth article type of guarantees. And this idea is not going down well with a number of NATO member states themselves, including Finland, for example. And Politico come up with an article on this matter. Let me give you some details on that. Finland demanded that the US not give Ukraine security guarantees. As reported by Politico, Finland, during diplomatic contacts, urgently urged the US to abandon any formulation that could create the illusion of Kiev of receiving security guarantees similar to Article 5 of NATO. According to their publication, Helsinki fears that such false promises will undermine the fundamental principle of their alliance of collective defense. Finland's foreign minister, Elina Valtonen, warned against any proposals for guarantees similar to Article 5 for post-war Ukraine. The diplomatic telegram, which Politico familiarized, which reports. The document emphasized that there should be a stricter barrier between NATO's obligations and any future bilateral agreement with Kiev. And well, this is interesting. Because veterans of our community probably already know why would Helsinki be this worried, and the reason is that, as I have said many times before, by the way, globalist control regimes in Europe, they understand that there is a certain time limitation how long they can use Kiev regime, how long they can sacrifice residents on the Kiev-controlled territory, people on the Kiev-controlled territory, and they are already preparing ground for more people and more from other countries, and those other countries too, also to be sacrificed. And one of those countries is Finland. Obviously, one of those countries is Finland, by the way. Baltic states too, other Baltic states too. I mean, republics, the so-called Chihuahuas, right? Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and surprisingly, yesterday I reported, isn't it, that Estonia and Latvia called for dialogue with Moscow or something like that, because maybe some elements in the local elites in this NATO, among these NATO member states, are realizing that they're gonna get sacrificed. That globalists will not stop before anything, and they understand that well, there is actually time limitation, how long and how much Kiev regime can be used there, and how many people there can be sacrificed until regime will completely collapse, right? And Russia will achieve decisive victory, undisputed decisive victory. And what's going to happen next? Globalists, and obviously major driving force, major force among globalists is London. Oh, London going to sacrifice others. And not just outside of NATO. And in this case, we all know, dear friends, that globalists are actually trying to destabilize Georgia, conduct regime change there, former Soviet Republic in Southern Caucasus, and globalists, London, let's say, was with assistance of their American allies, by the way, obviously. They were trying to use Georgia as a second front and continue to attempt, by the way, right? London derailed their relationships between Baku and Moscow, big time, between Azerbaijan and Russia, another former Soviet republic. So clearly, globalists were considering not just Georgia, but also Azerbaijan as a potential another front against Russia. Globalists are very actively operating in Central Asia and actually trying to derail the relationships between Russia and a number of Central Asian republics, first and foremost Kazakhstan, by the way, right? But, and there are Moldova, obviously, Moldova, also former Soviet republic, but this is not enough for globalists. They are preparing ground some NATO countries potentially to be sacrificed also, and among them Finland. And Finnish leadership, I guess, beginning to realize that. Let's see if this understanding will have any influence on their policies. It's a question, right? Just because they understand something or beginning to understand does not mean that they will be they will have enough freedoms, let's say, from the globalists to make some changes in their policies. But we will find out. We will find out soon. Also, the French Commerçant newspaper is reporting that, well, allegedly, creation of a multinational force was a topic of one of the topics of discussion during the Abu Dhabi trilateral talks. Let me give you some details on that. Security guarantees for Ukraine could include a rapid response multinational force rather than peacekeepers, an unnamed Western source in Abu Dhabi, where negotiations to resolve their military conflict are underway, told that was underway actually. The Telegraph earlier reported that several European countries are proposing the creation of a demilitarized buffer zone in Ukraine, patrolled by peacekeepers. Ukraine is insisting on the deployment of European troops, while Russia allegedly is pushing for Chinese servicemen. And this is coming from Telegraph, by the way, British propaganda outlet. No Russian official ever said that Moscow is either in the talks with Chinese side or is open to idea of deployment of Chinese troops on the line of contact, or any time, right? Either now or after this alleged ceasefire or presumed ceasefire will take place, right? So who knows what Telegraph is talking about there? But well, in any case, well, they are still pushing this idea of deployment of European troops, right? Troops from European NATO member states. And Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Lavrov, by the way, once again stated that deployment of any Western troops is absolutely unacceptable, and he went to criticize not just for destructive role, not just the European elites, but he went after Washington also. Lavrov pointed out contradictions in the U.S. statements and actions towards Russia. Recent U.S. decisions on Cuba and restrictions on oil and gas trade are at odds with the Washington statements on the cooperation with Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated, and you know what, probably will be better if I give you a short clip of Lavrov's statements. Basically, what he said is, in different words, that talk is cheap, policies, that's what actually matters, and this is exactly what I am saying for a very long time. By the way, let me give you this video.
They all remain in place. They're all the same. Moreover, for the first time in a while, new sanctions were introduced, very harsh, against our biggest oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft. And that happened just a couple weeks after the Anchorage meeting.
How does that make you feel?
Well, the President Putin, was quite surprised. He said that in an interview in Anchorage, Russia supported the propositions of the United States regarding the overall settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. And after that, we expected the United States to confirm this. Now that Russia agrees with our proposition, let's announce something. Let's probably gather a conference. Let's sign documents, the Board of Peace, and so on. Next thing we know, we see sanctions imposed against Rosneft and Lukoil. And now tariffs are being imposed against countries that buy energy from Russia. And right now, following the developments in Venezuela, our companies are blatantly being pushed out of Venezuela. India is being banned from buying Russian oil. Well, basically everybody is banned from buying Russian oil and gas. Everybody is talking about Russian oil and gas being exchanged with American oil and gas. And recently they passed a document on Cuba that will be probably interesting to you personally. And that document said that the document talks about some threat that Cuba is posing for the interests of the United States in the Caribbean, including the malicious policy of Russia. That kind of doesn't go very well with our investment cooperation.
So, by the way, you see there statements of Lavrov, quite clear and direct. Nothing really to add. He's definitely on point. Talk is cheap. Policies matter. And U.S. is clearly, U.S. leadership, let's say, is clearly contradicting itself, while on one side positioning itself as some sort of a peacemaker force and force for de-escalation, and on the other side, very same leadership of U.S. is implementing policies that are all about escalation. Which is factually accurate observation, isn't it? And also this, let's say, still mild criticism of Washington from Lavrov, I think, gives us a hint that, in my personal opinion, there is some disagreements between Russian Foreign Ministry and the Kremlin on the matters of communication with their hostile sites, including administration in the US. Although maybe I'm mistaken on that, but I think definitely Russian foreign ministry must be not happy with all these talks that Kremlin is engaged with the White House, because I guess Russian diplomats don't really believe that anything positive will come out of these talks. But yet again, maybe my understanding of that this situation is mistaken, and there is a complete agreement on the matter between Kremlin and foreign ministry. Anything is possible. Let's continue with some other news now, dear friends. As I said, a lot is happening, of course, and what I have bookmarked next, by the way, update on a special military operation. TASS news agency, based on Defense Ministry's latest update, informed public today that Russian Armed Forces liberated Popovka settlement in the Sumy region. This is the area, by the way, where some time ago there was a village of Popovka, and the area still has this name. There is almost nothing is left, practically nothing is left from settlement itself there. It's right on the border. Let me open map, by the way. Let's try to open a map. I can show you on the map location. It's in the Sumy region, right on the border. And I believe there is nothing left from their settlement that once was there. So this is the area, by the way. Let me just zoom in. So you see, I mean, from satellite picture, there is no settlement there, nothing. It used to be settlement, I guess, right? Used to be settlement, but it's gone now. But this territory, this area, is under Russian control now, right on the border. And while map is open, dear friends, let me also give you an update that more and more sources are reporting about a high concentration of Kiev regime's forces in the northern parts of Kharkov region, and speculations are intensified that maybe in upcoming weeks, possibly even days, Kiev regime will try to launch another incursion into Russian territory, this time around in the Belgorod direction. Earlier, I shared my take on the matter in one of my updates, and I predicted that this might be the plan of Kiev regime, and since then, actually more and more sources are talking about such a probability. Let's see. Kiev regime still operates with enough forces to launch another suicidal operation on a relatively large scale, and there may be even to try to invade the Belgorod region of the Russian Federation. Also, by the way, when it comes to progress of the Russian special military operation, we have this report that Russian flank was raised over the Novomarkovo settlement in Slavyansk direction, and videos are circulating with Russian troops raising the flag there. And earlier I reported, as you know, that Russian armed forces liberated Staroukrainka and Stepanovka settlements. Stepanovka is in Donetsk People's Republic, and Staroukrainka in Zaporozhye region. Also, I think this information will be interesting for members of our community from New Zealand, especially because another New Zealander was killed in a zone of special military operation, a mercenary, disguised as a mercenary, fighting alongside Ukrainian Nazis and fascists in Azov formation, neo-Nazi and terrorist Azov formation. The name of this individual is Sam Hennis. He was a member of 12th Operational Designation Brigade of the National Guard of the Ukraine's Azov, this neo-Nazi formation. He was 22 a year older, came to control territory, probably thinking that it's like a video game. He gonna now, go for safari, kill Russians. Well, all he get is a ceremony on Maidan, by the way, while being in a coffin. That's it. Another one. And there are plenty of such cases, plenty. Also, interesting reporter, I think that Russian Space Forces launched their Soyuz 2-1B rocket with their military satellites from the Plisetsk Cosmodrome in Arkhangelsk region, and rumors start circulating on internet that these satellites, this launch was Moscow's attempt to create some kind of alternative for Starlink, so that Russian troops will continue to use internet, space broadbanding internet, how should I say it? But unfortunately, this cannot be true. This cannot be true because to build their satellite grouping on the state and to have a coverage, massive coverage in terms of providing internet, definitely one launch or two launches or even 10 launches are not enough, for sure. And according to reports that I see on the Russian segment of internet, Russia might have a local alternative to Starlink in about several years from now, by 2030, which is quite far away, right? And work, by the way, on similar system as Starlink is happening for years now. There were private companies that were working on this matter. Maybe there is some military programs also, but yeah, unfortunately, we don't really have yet something like Starlink. And yet again, according to reports that I've seen in Russian segment of media, internet, closest data when we will have a Starlink type of system is 2030. So I don't know. Maybe there is some secret programs that will go online tomorrow, but in open sources date is 2030. And well, I already reported earlier, dear friends, that Elon Musk's Starlink made some changes and kind of cut off Russian side from using Starlink internet. Could be true, or maybe not, or maybe Russian engineers will find ways how to hack these Starlink dishes and still continue to deploy them as they find it necessary. Anything is possible, really. Also, dear friends, national interest. Conservative media outlet in the US come up with an article questioning reasons behind the German decision of Germany to deploy brigade on the Russian border and 100 plus Leopard tanks. And well, we don't really have to guess much, isn't it? I have said a million times before that globalists are preparing a number of countries to be sacrificed next in this proxy war against Russia. And among those countries, you can count Baltic Chihuahuas too, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Finland is there also, potentially Poland, by the way, right? This is from NATO countries, and there are a number of others that are not members of the NATO that globalists are considering to be the ones that can be sacrificed in this proxy war against Russia. Let me give you some details from this article. The national interest writes that Germany is actively deploying its military and armored vehicles to Lithuania Germany is stationing about 5,000 Bundeswehr soldiers along with 105 Leopard tanks in Lithuania. This is the first permanent deployment of German brigade abroad since the Second World War. Troops will be based as a part of a plan to deter a potential Russian threat. Deployment is being carried out on stages, with their first units arriving in 2024, 2 combat battalions in January 2026, and full combat readiness expected by 2027. And what I have said, dear friends, about her potential timing when globalists might provoke direct open clashes between European NATO member states and Russia, I said it's going to be 2027, isn't it? Probably it's going to be either end of 2026 or first half of 2027. That's my understanding of the big picture. Of course, there might be some correctives on the timing, but that's how I see their things, and there are just too many indicators of preparations being done by Western ruling class to launch these direct clashes, and deployment of German troops is definitely part of it, right? When it comes to military capabilities of this brigade, well, it's a significant force, obviously, 5,000 troops, brigade, 105 tanks. They will have numerous, dozens and dozens of infantry fighting vehicles, armored vehicles, other equipment, artillery, air support, and all that stuff combined is, of course, a significant force, undoubtedly, but we should keep in mind that neither German militaries, neither militaries of any other NATO member states have experience in modern warfare, right? So, on the paper, this brigade might be, mighty force on the paper, but in reality, I think Russian troops will obliterate this brigade and in potentially and make it undeployable on the battlefield in matter of maybe even hours, for sure days, but maybe even in hours, by the way, because 105 tanks, that's 105 drones. That's it, right? Nothing to be said about mines and artillery and missiles and all that stuff, right? And none of these troops, by the way, have any experience of high intensity conflict. So, yet again, on paper, NATO might have a mighty force already deployed on the borders with Russia, but in reality, battle capabilities of these troops, real battle capabilities of these troops, I think are very much questionable. Russian Foreign Minister, dear friends, had a meeting with their OSCE chair, Ignacio Cassis, and their Secretary General, Feridun Siniorlioglu, in Moscow. Ignacio Cassis is Foreign Minister of Switzerland, isn't it? I believe. And well, Sergei Lavrov, all we need to know about these talks is that Lavrov stated that OSCE, Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, is facing a real threat of self-destruction, and this is true. That's how it is, by the way, and there is not really much to talk about this organization after that, because globalist controlled European regimes largely failed to gain a place around the table, negotiating table, which is taken by Moscow and Washington, actually. Well, they are using now other means, right, to infiltrate this connectivity. And one of the ways is OSCE, of course, because formally OSCE was created to deal with the conflict situations in Europe, right? But was weaponized from the beginning against Russia, first of all, and nothing has changed since then. And I mean, Lavrov is a heavyweight diplomat, by the way. Obviously, this attempt, this attempt of European elites to infiltrate the processes that they are not part of, not gonna work. I guess, therefore, I guess European ruling class will be still focused on terror campaigns and attempts to derail communication between Kremlin and the White House through other means, including terrorist attacks, such as happened today, for example, when Lieutenant General of the Russian military, Russian armed forces, was targeted. Iran is of course another big topic. Live stream is more than an hour now, but I guess all the news that I shared, by the way, were important ones that deserve some attention for better understanding of the situation, what is going on. But still, there is a numerous other news, other topics that I think are important. And one of the topics is, of course, Iran. Foreign Minister of Islamic Republic arrived in Muscat to participate in the next round of talks with US. Abbas Araghchi is there already, and I believe Steve Witkoff, head of American delegation, is also there. Earlier, dear friends, Russian media reported that Moscow allegedly offered to assist these talks between Washington and Iran. Moscow offered to take enriched uranium from Iran, while making it clear that the presence of this enriched uranium in Iran does not break no obligations of the Tehran, either through non-proliferation treaty or any other agreements, which is factually accurate, of course. But US is speculating with the topic of this nuclear program, and Moscow would happily assist with that. But we all understand all these talks are just attempt of Washington to gain some time, potentially to catch Tehran off guard again when US will launch its attacks on Iran. But this time around, probably Tehran will be a little more ready for such a scenario. And it is anybody's guess, of course, when US might attack Iran. But I think this could happen this weekend, tomorrow or day after. One of the indicators of that may be that Washington issued a warning to all US citizens to flee Iran immediately. And also reports are, NBC, for example, NBC News reported that US already concentrated enough forces in the region around Iran to launch approximately 450 Tomahawk cruise missiles, which is plenty. Of course, one should keep in mind that US also has a significant number of aircraft in the region, including aircraft carrier strike group led by aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. But I think Pentagon is still doubting its own military capabilities. Probably they want to deploy some more military assets. And that's the reason. I think why they initiated this nuclear talks with Iran to gain some time, right? To gain some time. When it comes to military capabilities of US, that is already known. These 450 Tomahawks definitely are serious stuff. But when it comes to Iran, by the way, if all 450 Tomahawks, let's say, are launched, I guess about 100 of these missiles, or definitely more than 50 of these missiles, probably would not reach the target due to some technical issues. And I'm saying so because it seems like maintenance of their weaponry in US Army is done very poorly. there were reports that from dozens of Tomahawk missiles that allegedly was launched against some terrorist groups in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago by US, several just did not reach the target and crashed due to some technical reasons. So if 450 Tomahawks are launched, probability that at least 50 or maybe even 100 of those missiles will just crash somewhere is quite high. I think from, and let's say 50 missiles did not reach the target. From 400, I guess Iranian Air Force is capable to intercept at least from 50 to 100 missiles, right? And what is left? 200, 250 missiles. Iran is 3 times bigger than Iraq, by the way. And you think 250 or 300 or 400 Tomahawk missiles gonna do catastrophic damage to Iran's military capabilities? No, not possible. It's not possible. Of course, Iranian side is learned his lessons, and most likely Iranian militaries are dispersed. Right, all the militaries, right? Missile forces, air defense forces, ground forces of all types, they are massively dispersed, I guess, right? So that these missile strikes, when US will launch eventually, I don't think gonna be catastrophically harmful for Iran. It will be painful, 100%, but I don't think they're gonna be catastrophically harmful. And Iran will survive, but also we should keep in mind, dear friends, that in my personal opinion, Western ruling class will try to, or goal of the Western ruling class is not to establish friendly regime in Iran, but to destabilize whole region, to provoke conflicts, armed conflicts on ethnic and sectarian lines in as many countries as possible, including in Iran, and also to provoke conflicts between the regional countries, between Saudi Arabia, for example, and Iran, and some others, right? And Western ruling class wants to do this to shut down navigation into Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, to cut off China, basically, from Middle Eastern energy sources, right? And force Beijing to increase its dependence on Russian energy towards the critical level. And at that point, I think this plan of Western ruling class that dates back decades, in my opinion, and was launched in 2008, this plan includes, at that point, when Chinese dependence will reach critical level, to provoke some tensions between Moscow and Beijing, while using fifth column that the Western ruling class most likely has in both countries, right? And to create fear in China, in Chinese leadership, that Moscow might turn its back on China now and seek cooperation with Europe, maybe even cut down energy supplies to China, which will, theoretically speaking, will of course be death sentence for Chinese economy. And their plan basically is to force China, plan of the Western ruling class, to force China at that point to go ahead with their military operations and to try to secure closest energy fields with military means. And where the closest energy fields are from China, Central Asian republics of Soviet Union, former republics of Soviet Union, first of all Kazakhstan, obviously, that is neighboring with China, and Russian Federation. So Western ruling class wants to basically provoke war between China and Russia. And this war, of course, will not avoid India and Pakistan. They will get involved one way or another, and this way, Western ruling class will get rid of all potential competitors for possibly for centuries to come. That's their plan, and they are preparing ground to implement all the components of this plan as we speak. And as I said, this plan was launched, active phase of it was launched in 2008, I believe, with when under the orders of Washington or Western ruling class, Mikhail Saakashvili, president of Georgia at the time, reignite civil war and also committed their act of war against Russia while ordering Georgian militaries to open fire against Russian peacekeepers that were deployed in South Ossetia, a breakaway region at the time, under the UN mandate, by the way. And dozens of Russian peacekeepers were killed and wounded, and the president of Russia at the time, Dmitry Medvedev, ordered militaries to get involved, and that's exactly what they did. And from that point on, Western launch and pushes extreme level of demonization of Russia, and since that point on, Western world become openly hostile, extremely hostile towards Russia in many directions. In 2014, they went to conduct coup d'etat in Kiev, and we know what happened after that. So that's my understanding of the situation. By the way, that's what Western ruling class is doing, right? Anyways, let's continue with some more news. RT is reporting that allegedly Iran has upgraded its ballistic missiles. Iran has completed the technical upgrade of its ballistic missile arsenals and formally shifted its military doctrine to a more offensive one. The country's armed forces chief of staff has announced, and even though I don't think several months are enough time to make some general updates of their any forces or any military equipment, but I guess Iranian military leadership learned their lessons, and most likely Iranian missile forces are dispersed in such a manner that U.S., Israel, and their allies, they will struggle to reach to deter the catastrophic damage, let's say, to Iranian armed forces with their first, second, third waves of attacks. But we will find out, because I think attack on Iran is imminent, because Western ruling class, as I said many times before, has no reverse gear, has no brakes, right? And they will go ahead with their plans to destabilize whole region, which includes, of course, destabilization of Iran too. And it's not just a missile force system that Iran is working on. A more clear images emerge on internet of Russian-made Mi-28 helicopters in hands of Iranian militaries. I can show you video, by the way. Right now, you can see on your screen screenshot, and clearly, I mean, if you are familiar with the military aviation, clearly you can recognize this silhouette is Mi-28, of course, and I can show you a video itself too, by the way. It's a short video. It's definitely Mi-28. For sure. And who knows what other weapon systems Russia transferred to Iran? There might be a lot, right? Air defense systems, radio electronic warfare systems. It might be not just attack helicopters or helicopter gunships, but also rumors are that Russia transferred their Su-35 fighter jets too. Maybe this is accurate. And also, we should keep in mind that China, by the way, China is also, of course, assisting Iran, and probably they also delivered a significant volume of some weapons to increase military capabilities of Iranian armed forces. So I guess once Western ruling class will go ahead with their plans to attack Iran and to launch this large-scale operation to destabilize the Middle East, we will find out what the real battle capabilities of Iranian armed forces are, and what kind of assistance they have received from the friendly nations. What else have I bookmarked difference here? Well, it is interesting also, I think, to notice that Turkey detained two suspected Mossad spies in a major operation codenamed Monitum. One of their detainees worked under the identity of a marble trader, and there you can see photos of these two, Mossad, alleged Mossad spies, and well, quickly observing significant deterioration of the relationship between Ankara and Tel Aviv, isn't it? Two countries enjoy decades of cooperation in all possible fields, but lately, these relationships are clearly deteriorating, and the main reason is that both countries are on a collision course. Both countries, Israel and Turkey, are on a collision course. And I think conflict between the two is absolutely inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. And they are basically now bordering, not officially, but technically speaking, they are kind of bordering each other because both countries have their presence in Syria. Also something to keep in mind. And when it comes to Syria, by the way, it's sometimes it does seems like Israeli influence over the Damascus new regime in Damascus, led by al-Sharai, is much stronger than one might anticipate, much stronger than maybe even Turkey's influencer, because well, Syria's current leader al-Sharai went to make some threats towards the Hezbollah, by the way, Lebanese Hezbollah movement. He promised to take revenge on Hezbollah in a closed meeting, according to Al Akbar media outlet. And some quotes here: "Now it is Hezbollah's turn, and we will not forget our revenge." Statements allegedly suggest exploiting situation in case of U.S. strikes on Iran to open front against Lebanon. And well, I don't think this will serve Turkey's interests, by the way, as Turkish leadership understands this, and Turkish leadership is clearly neo imperialist, right, regime. They are trying to build some a new Ottoman Empire type of thing, right, while pretending to be a leading country in a Sunni Muslim world. And that's why I'm saying, by the way, I mean, if Damascus actually will go ahead and attack Hezbollah, that will serve greatly, Israeli interests, right? That will make Israeli position much more stronger, and that will automatically weaken Turkish positions. So who is in charge in Damascus, actually? Maybe Ankara was played by U.S. Secret Services and Israeli Secret Services, while believing that al-Sharai and all these terrorist groups that were located in Idlib district were under Turkish control, while in reality they were through different means controlled by Israel and U.S. Something is not quite adding up here in terms of dynamics between this al-Sharai regime, or New Damascus regime, Turkey, and Israel, right? We'll find out soon. Soon, I guess. Also, dear friends, few more news. Maybe you will be surprised, but Trump threatened yet another country with military action. This time around, Mauritius, island nation of Mauritius. And he threatened Mauritius because he is not happy with the agreement that was signed between UK and this island nation about transfer of Diego Garcia Islander in some 99 years or whatever. And Trump went to say that if somehow, anytime, U.S. military presence in this base, Diego Garcia, will be questioned on Diego Garcia Island, will be in question, well, they will not hesitate to take a military action. So add another country to the list that Trump threatened militarily. This time around, this tiny island nation of Mauritius, insane, by the way. And well, U.S. ruling class was quite critical of Starmer, isn't it? British Prime Minister, for signing this agreement. Trump, in his statement on Truth Social, did not went after Starmer very hard. He said that maybe Starmer was only able to come up with the best agreement he could in the current situation. But whatever the case, Starmer itself, by the way, soon might be replaced. Rumors are beginning to spread that, time for days of leadership of Starmer is numbered, and allegedly replacement proposals for the people that might replace Starmer is former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner and Health Minister Velta Sterting. I have no freaking idea who these individuals are, and neither I have any interest to learn, really. But yes, some names even been mentioned now who might replace Starmer, who is a lame duck and total disgrace, right? Everyone hates this individual for many reasons. Extremely unpopular politician in UK, and maybe Labour Party is panicking now, and they want to remove Keir Starmer as soon as possible. He already on the edge of losing his position as a leader of Labour Party, after which obviously automatically, soon after he will lose his seat as a prime minister. Will it help? Will this possible removal of Starmer help Labours to gain some more support from public there in UK? I don't think so, really. But in any ways, by the way, this is a uni-party, isn't it? Labours, Conservatives, or add to this company Farage's party, by the way, Reform UK Party. These all are uni-party. It's the same forces, same shadow forces are in control of everything there, all their parties, all the political groups, and therefore nothing will change in dramatic fashion, no matter which party is actually formally in a ruling position. That's how it is, right? And I already mentioned, by the way, don't be shocked to see this image there. Although it is shocking, of course. This is Trump. This is Trump, by the way. I don't know what the hell is wrong with this guy, man. He is losing it, isn't it? He is losing it. Trump, US president, published a video, shared video on his Truth Social, in which towards the end of the video, former president of US, Barack Obama, and his wife are depicted like that you see on your screen. Wow. Wow, I have no words, man. Something is wrong with everything is wrong with Trump, man. What the hell? What the hell is doing? Did he even watch this video? Well, someone has to check his Truth Social page. Did he bring down this post? Did someone tell him that there is this type of images in that video, or did he even watch it full? Because if he did, and he still posted this, well, man, that's too freaking bad. I mean, all humans, by the way, are ape species, right? Some might argue. We are not descendants of the primates. We are the primates, right? Scientifically speaking, we are the primates. Of course, but in US, in a country that has a long and a very infamously, richer history of racism and segregation and all that kind of stuff, to do something like this, man, is terrible, man, in so many ways. It's hard to even describe. Trump is freaking crazy, man, and he is losing his freaking mind. And level of degeneration of the Western political class is just horrific, man. Who are these psychopaths, man? What the hell is going on? I don't know, but this is insane. This is insane. Few more news, dear friends, on some economical topics, and then let's have a little community chat here. So China bans all new investments in Israel, according to Ynet. I believe this is an Israeli media outlet. So Beijing allegedly designated Israel as a high-risk area following the Gaza war. One founder has already used their ban to refuse honoring a deal with one of the Israeli companies. And well, I don't know how close or how important business relationships or trade relationships between China and Israel is actually, but well, China is a major economical power in this world, and in any case, decision on part of Beijing to minimize any economical involvement in Israeli life might have some consequences potentially, right? Also, I think very important news that construction of the PAX-2 nuclear power plant designed by Rosatom, Russian energy major, has begun in Hungary. Rosatom CEO Alexei Likhachov, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi, Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade Peter Szijjártó, and former minister responsible for the expansion of their PAX MPP Janos Sully attended their concrete pouring ceremony in a place where this new nuclear power plant will be built there. Construction began with their building that will house WER 1200 nuclear reactor of Russian origin, Russian design. PAX-2 will now officially receive their status of their largest nuclear construction project. Work was scheduled to begin earlier, but was delayed due to US sanctions against Gazprom Bank and 6 of its foreign subsidiaries. In early November, following a visit to Washington, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban announced that the US had completely lifted all sanctions. The local regulator subsequently issued all necessary permits. PAX-2 is the first Russian project in European Union, the nuclear power plant, not the first reactor, so not the first nuclear power stations on the territory of EU, but because number of countries joined the EU already having nuclear power plants of Soviet Russian design, right? But since the collapse of Soviet Union, this is going to be first Russian project in this field. So PAX-2 is the first Russian project in the European Union, the nuclear power plant with the 2 WER 1200 generators will be built on a turnkey basis. The units have a guaranteed service life of 60 years. And well, this will be, of course, once operational, of course, this will be a massive event for Hungary, because they will have plenty of energy, by the way, not just for themselves, but also to export. And as we all know, by the way, I mean, nuclear reactors are generating one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest, electricities out there, right, on the market. And also, I want to end, dear friends, a new segment on this report that Russia tops Europe in gold medals at the International Science Olympics, leading in math, physics, computing, chemistry, biology, and AI. And you can see scores, by the way, of Russian teams on your screen right now. number one in all these subjects, by the way: mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, informatics, artificial intelligence, which is a great news difference, because of course investments in higher education matters, and Russian educational system, although facing some challenges, as which is nothing extraordinary, but nevertheless still is one of the best in this world, and their results talk louder than any statements would, right? Great, by the way. Now let me check for a potential breaking news. It will take just a second, by the way. Let me just check for potential breaking news, and then let's join the chat, by the way. So, you know what? Let's check, for example, RIA Novosti on potential breaking news. What is here? I didn't see any breaking news there. Iranian foreign minister praised the start of the nuclear talks with the US. These talks have been launched, I believe, in Muscat, by the way, capital of Oman, between the Iranian and the US delegations. Let's see if there are going to be any results. But yet again, by the way, I'm quite sure these negotiations are only yet another attempt of American side to just gain some time and somehow catch Tehran off guard when they will attack. Head of European Commission von der Leyen announced the 20th package of EU sanctions against Russia. Okay, this is not really breaking news. There is nothing extraordinary here, no surprises. In its 20th sanctions package, European Commission intends to replace their currently ineffective price cap on Russian oil with a complete ban on its transportation, which it proposes to enforce jointly with the group of G7 countries, primarily the UK and the US. And of course, this might be the preparation of the ground for further intensification of the harassment of the commercial vessels that are linked to Russia. Yet again, no surprises, by the way, no surprises. Okay. Russia will find ways to deal with this, with these sanctions, obviously. And dear friends, Scooby, member of our Rumble community, just gifted their premium subscription to another member of their community, which means $5 donation to this project, by the way. So thank you very much, Scooby, for your support, for this gifter. Truly appreciate your support, assistance, attention. Thank you very much. And also, dear friends, during this live stream, there was a donation through PayPal from Luke. Thank you very much, Luke, for $12 donation through PayPal. And Luke is highlighting question from NSPK77. Do you see the Ukraine war ending in 2026? NSPK77 is asking, and well, unfortunately, I think there is highly likely that this conflict will last for a whole year and probably will continue in 2027 too. And I also think there is a high probability that either towards the end of this year, 2026, or in the first half of 2027, globalists and their allies, American neocons, intelligence community in the US, also Zionists, they might provoke a direct confrontation between militaries of at least number of European NATO member states and Russian Federation to further prolong this proxy war. So that's how I see the situation from current standpoint, right? From current point of observation, let's say. Of course, there is always a probability that some major events unexpected, maybe major events will take place that will demand from us to correct our understanding of the situation. But as it stands for now, I think this conflict, unfortunately, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, unfortunately, will continue throughout the year and most likely in 2027 too, and probably will further escalate with the direct involvement of number of European NATO member states. Thank you very much, Luke, once again for your donation through PayPal, and I guess there was no questions, no donation through Boosty. Otherwise, Anna probably would drop the screen of Ether. And so, yes, dear friends, I promised that I would explain changes that I plan from Monday. Tomorrow and day after, I will make live streams, combined live streams on YouTube and Rumble. Maybe I will launch live streams at 3 p.m. or maybe 5, by the way. I mean, I don't know myself yet. But from Monday, in the morning at about 10, 11, I will publish a news update on YouTube first. It will be pre-recorded video. So I will publish a news update on YouTube first, and then shortly after, I will launch live stream on Rumble with the news that I had in YouTube update, and with addition of all the other important updates that our media will report in that time frame, right? From moment that I start recording the update for YouTube and until I will launch live stream on Rumble. So Rumble live streams will be will have more information in Ether because more information will be available. So hopefully our YouTube community, members of our YouTube community, will join live streams on Rumble. That's what the plan is, and later on in the work, during the work days, I will try to have a second updates on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and on Saturdays and Sundays, whenever I will have a live streams, I will make combined live streams on YouTube and Rumble. If there is some major developments, of course, I can launch live streams on both channels. This is understandable, right? If something extraordinary is happening and community will have interest in a live stream, I will do it, right? But other than that, that's how things are gonna be. Hopefully, these changes will somehow help to deal with this shadow ban, which is going more and more aggressive, by the way. It's a shadow ban on steroids, right? Something like that. I don't know if it is even possible to deal with the algorithms, right? But I'm gonna try, isn't it? So that's how it's gonna be, dear friends. On weekdays on YouTube, I will have pre-recorded news updates, not live streams, but pre-recorded news updates. Live stream is gonna be on Rumble. And on weekends, I will have combined live streams on both platforms. Let's see how this will work, dear friends. I guess this is it for now, almost 2-hour stream. And dear friends, if you liked my work And if you want to support me to deal with all this project, by the way, you can of course support her. Please subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. That will be of course great support. And you can use of course PayPal for support, or by the way Boosty platform. And right now, Scooby also, there was another super chat from Scooby, by the way, and let me highlight this super chat too. Just a sec. I guess Scooby is recommending me to focus on other platforms too. For example, BitShooter, Odyssey, Upscroller. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat recommendation and dollar donation. Well, I'm gonna take a look at the Upscroll and the BitShoot. On Odyssey, dear friends, on Odyssey, there is a specific donation program, isn't it, there? And it does not work, sir. Any platform, any platform that is using, what is the name, by the way, of that system? Ani. There is a specific system, by the way, that is used by many platforms nowadays. I cannot have it, right? I cannot make it because they are not operating in Russia and they are not operating in Georgia also, for whatever reasons. I mean, Georgia is not sanctioned and nothing. Stripe, by the way, Stripe is being one of their systems, right? Stripe is used by almost everybody. I guess this is the case. This is going to be the case with BitShoot and their Upscroll too, right? If you mean that these platforms can be more useful for this project, but I'm going to take a look at it anyways, right? I'm barely managing to do this YouTube and Rumble stuff and more platforms. I don't know. It might be more difficult, but I will take a look at it right after this stream, by the way, right? I believe I even created once a page on Odyssey, and I quickly realized that I just cannot use it. So maybe these other platforms will be more useful, even in terms of reaching wider, reaching wider audience. Okay, and another super chat from Scooby, dear friends. Let me highlight this two. So this is another super chat from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat on Rumble and another dollar donation. And Scooby is commenting that BitShooter does not censor speech. Upscrolled does not have a bias in an algorithm. So I'm gonna try for sure. I mean, I will look at these platforms right after this stream, Scooby, and I mean, maybe this is the way to go forward. I don't know. I'll try. So let's see. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your support, for your attention, and for your recommendations. I appreciate your support. Thank you. So I'll take a look at this topic for sure, 100%. And dear friends, this is it for now, I guess. This is it for now, dear friends. Hopefully you liked the video, and if so, click that like button if you did not yet. You know, maybe number of likes and their comments on videos are actually, you know, influencing the algorithm. I don't know. Have a wonderful day, great upcoming weekend, and take care. Thank you all. Bye.